Here's a small review of my new Christmas present I got this year. That's the Propel RC Gyrocopter helicopter. You can see it's already been opened. This is not an unboxing video. More of a review on a helicopter that I've actually used extensively now since Christmas morning, 2012. It is now January 31st, 2013. And this is my copter. It is obviously the orange and gold. It still has the original props on it, all four of the main props here. And the rear rotor is still original also. It did come with replacement parts in case the need did arise to replace a broken one. I don't know if you can quite tell, there's a couple dents and scrapes on it, but overall no real damage done to it. Here's a close-up of the controller. 3-channel A, B, and C, power, elevation up and down, and your multi-directional left, right, diagonal, everything else. Trim buttons for left and right. Essentially, that's for correcting spin. When you're hovering in the air and it kind of twists to one side on its own, you do either the right or the left trim to help level and straighten out your flight, make it more stable, and fly more true. And without further ado, I will cut to the actual flight video.
And here I'm not actually gassing it very much. I'm trying to go for a slow ascent, but the carpet kind of caught the landing strips there, in case you were wondering why it took off so slow. And I'm pretty much just demonstrating the backwards control, and that you can do more than just a stationary pivot turn. You can actually go all the way around in sweeping circles. There's a stationary rotation, I guess. Big sweeping circle. Yeah, that was you. In case you're wondering, this is on my GoPro Hero HD camera. I've got it mounted on my forehead with my head mount. And you'll see in a second I'll stand up. And LEDs just turned on with my remote.
Oops.
And that's what happens when you're trying to land it on the lens of your camera. Buzzing the tower. It's fairly easy to land. I'm showing here that you can, without actually taking the helicopter off the ground, you can kind of turn it around with just the right amount of gas or throttle, whichever you want to use. I should mention also that the landing strips on this helicopter are very flexible, which facilitates for less than smooth landing. LEDs again. And I should also note too that the LEDs on my controlled test flights, if you leave the LEDs on for the entire flight, it'll actually suck about a minute of your flight time down. Surprisingly, that LEDs are typically pretty low voltage lights. On this particular model, I noticed it does in fact suck a lot of the batteries. Here I'm also showing that, I'll hold my controller up here. I'm not using the gas right here, see there, and just the wind coming off the propellers bouncing off my hand is enough to push it up. And I've actually pushed it all the way to the ceiling without actually touching the gas or the helicopter itself. It can make for some cumbersome landings if you're not quick enough, because it'll actually bounce off the floor and try to push it back up again. Yeah, going back to the durability of the landing strips. Going back to the LEDs, I've actually test flown the helicopter with nothing but as controlled a hover as I can, and I've gotten about 5.5 minutes of continuous flight. And I've done the same thing with the LEDs on the entire flight, and it was just over 4.5 minutes of flight time. Were both controlled flights with no crashes or landings. Chasing cats is fun. And coming up here, I'll also show the durability and basically the fairly decent resilience of crashes. As long as you can keep control of it, it can take quite a beating even in flight. I was telling you earlier about the trim buttons. Right now I'm not turning it, it's doing it by itself. And I'll tap the right trim button and it'll straighten it out just like that. That seems to be a continuous battle also. Every time I fly it, for the entire flight, I'm constantly hitting the trim buttons to straighten out the flight again. More LEDs, hitting the trim, flattening out the flight. It doesn't seem to really alter the flight too much, but if you're trying to get more precise turns and flights, trim is necessary. And that's about it.